Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay, I apologize. I had some issues with the link. So I am here. Director Wong, we ready to begin?
Yes, we are.
Okay, we'll turn it over to you first to call the roll or to read the preamble, and then we'll call the roll. Thank you.
Excuse me. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law and section 101.021 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Recusals from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When you finish speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located the bottom of the WebEx screen. Call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter submitted through proper channels have been considered. We've also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Proper channels for comments are listed below. Communication with members of this body must follow proper channels for consideration. All comments received by the Wednesday 12 p.m. deadline are collected by city planning staff and disseminated to the commission members prior to any scheduled meeting. Proper channels for public comments are listed below: sending an email to the city planning email address, calling or leaving a message at our general phone line number, sending a letter or dropping off comments at City Hall on the 5th floor. Okay, sorry, there's a slight delay in our slides. I just wanted to note for the commission that we did add this overall slide just to discuss how meeting rules and procedures happen, and this is a practice that we borrowed from the Landmarks Commission, so we're grateful for the Landmarks for establishing this. Just so everyone, especially for those who are new to presenting in front of the commission, knows the procedures. The chair will call each agenda item, and then each applicant will be invited to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the commission. Once the presentation has been concluded, the chair will ask the planning staff to summarize design review committee recommendations and public comments. The deadline for public comments is noon on the Wednesday prior to any regularly scheduled city planning meetings. Any received comments are distributed to the commission members prior to the meeting, and staff will also identify any members of the public present and scheduled to speak. Public comment is allowed at the discretion of the chair, and any individual providing public comment is permitted 2 minutes, well, I think that's something we can discuss, to speak to the agenda item in which they have any interest. The chair then will request a recommendation from the staff. If relevant, the commission will then begin deliberations and project review. Any commission member except the chair may make a motion at any point after an agenda item has been called. Any questions about procedures?
Thank you. Michael, will you call the roll, please?
Anthony.
Present.
Fluker.
Present.
Curry.
Present.
McRae Scott.
Present.
Sargent.
Present.
Slight.
Present.
And the chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. First item on the agenda, welcome everyone, is to approve the minutes from the previous meeting, which was August 4th, 2023. Commission members have the minutes in advance, and they're also at the table. So I'll ask if there are any questions or edits, or if a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the meeting minutes from the August 4th meeting.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Michael, call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Fluker,
Abstain.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott.
yes,
Sergeant,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. First item is a conditional use permit, which is a public hearing. So for zoning matters, these are public hearings of which we'll hear a presentation from staff first about the rezoning. Then we'll hear the sponsor testimony. This could be the owner of the property or the council person or the person representing the property. Then we'll open it up to public comment. And we'll hear from proponents first and ask that you please state your name clearly and your address. And if you're on Zoom, you can just raise your hand and I can see it as well. I will need to rely on the director if someone is in person who would like to speak. Then we will hear from those opposed. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. And I assume, can we go to the next slide for the matter? This is conditional use permit for permanent parcel number 001-24-008 and 009. This is at 1421 West 117th Street. And I think, Xavier, are you going to present this one first?
Madam Chair, before Xavier presents, I wanted to note for the record that the next 3 agenda items are all related to one another. And
Okay.
so up to you how to hear them. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Xavier.
And so in that regard, I think we should hear the full presentation, including the design review or demolition. And we will make 3 separate motions, but we should hear everything first and have all of staff's comments actually all coordinated, and then we'll act on the 3.
So good morning, Xavier Bay, zoning planner and city planning. Sorry, there's a slight delay in the presentation, so I might miss a few slides here. So, right, as you stated, Madam Chair, this is a conditional use permit for 1421 West 117th Street. And so this property is located just south east of the intersection of 117th West 117th Street and Detroit Avenue. And as you can see, this property kind of has the drive-in coming off of 117th Street, and then also off of south of Detroit Avenue. And so basically, Congestion Retail Overlay District is made to really establish and maintain the economic viability of older neighborhood shopping districts, to preserve the pedestrian-oriented character and minimize conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians. So the proposal here is to demolish and reconstruct an RVs. So sorry, my slides are jumping around here. There we go. As I mentioned, to demolish and reconstruct RVs. And so first, presenting the off-street parking that they're proposing that's within 40 feet of the pedestrian retail space. And so it's kind of hard to see, I guess, for sitting from the table, but the spaces, I'll go to the screen here, so it says 60 here. These 2 spaces here are within the first 40 feet of the PRO space from West 117th Street. And then these 3 spaces up here are within the 40 feet of the pedestrian retail space from Detroit Avenue. And so all these spaces, each of them require conditional use. And so you're really judging if the size, shape, or layout of the subject property does not permit placement of parking, loading, or the driveway in a more suitable location. And you're also determining if it's demonstrated by the applicant that placing the parking in a allowed location would jeopardize or occupancy of the property. And I do want to mention that the PRO reduces the parking needed by 33%. So 21 spaces are proposed here, and so that can be reduced by 33%, which would leave the required minimum at 13 spaces. And next, I have slides showing some of the street view. Sorry, I just want to present West 117th Street first. So this is the inlet coming in off of West 117th Street. And so there's actually multiple driveways coming across the sidewalk there. As you can kind of see looking northeast down West 117th Street, there's the two for the RVs, the one for the urgent care center that was recently approved earlier this year. And there's another picture looking at the southeast view. It's pretty difficult to see further away, but you can really see just how it's not really welcoming for a walking environment. And then this is the street views on Detroit Avenue. So looking southeast, there's a bus stop there that is still currently there. So the first picture there kind of shows you like you're right in front of the soon-to-be urgent care center. Looking southeast, there's the inlet for the urgent care center parking lot, and then the inlet for the RVs. Right past that, going more southeast, right next to the Brothers Lounge. And so there's another picture looking southwest towards the inlet for the RVs, and then, as I mentioned again, the urgent care center that's soon to be constructed. And so basically, you're deciding today if the size, shape, or layout of the subject property does not permit placement of parking, loading, or the driveway in a more suitable location, and or if this would jeopardize the continued occupancy of the property. Thank you. So that's it for the conditional uses, and then if you'd like, we could go into the RV's presentation. I believe Matt Yanda is present. Representing
Yes. I think we should hear both the design review and the demolition first, and then we'll act on all of it. I did want to make a clarification. We're doing final approval on the demolition, but the agenda says schematic approval on the design, but we've already seen this. So I'm not going to ask commission members to take a look at this, and I'll defer to the committee, but we've already seen this. And so this is the second time from a design perspective as well. So just curious why this isn't final on that end, but we can when we get there.
To the chair, this is the first time we're seeing this. You may be referring to the urgent care, which actually had been seen by the commission at a prior meeting, which is on the parcel to the north of the RVs, but this is the first time the RVs.
Okay. I apologize. You are correct. I was confusing them. Arby's and Pizza Hut, it's all the same to me, so I apologize. Sorry. Yes, continue.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Matt Yanda is present. I believe he's representing RVs.
Oh, apologies. I thought the city was still giving their presentations. Apologies for that.
And Matt, just one quick thing. Since we're going to hear the design review, I'm just going to need to swear you in, or anyone else who's going to speak on the demolition or design review. Are you the only person?
The only one that I'm aware of here, at least as for the guest, no one I recognize. So I think it'll just be me here.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay.
And before I at least get started here, just want to say I've lived in Cleveland my entire life, and this is actually the first time I've been at a planning commission meeting here. So as I'm seeing the screen here now, it appears that they're going through my documents here. I didn't know if I shared my screen. Am I able to present to you guys, or is that not a functionality here? If not, that's totally
No,
okay.
they will run through the slides that you submitted.
Okay. That's perfect then. All right. Well, anyway, good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Yonda with CESO. Address is 175 Montrose Avenue, Akron, Ohio. Here today representing Arby's for this proposed restaurant project located at 1421 West 117th Street. And as we can see here, at least from the slide that's up right now, this site is located in the Far West Region Design Review District. And as previously mentioned, it's located just south of a recently approved urgent care site, where at least it's an existing Pizza Hut now, which is at the southeast corner of the intersection of Detroit and 117th. And as you can see from this slide here, the existing site is an Arby's restaurant, but based on these street view photos and some of the interior photos, which I believe is the next slide, you can see that the site is a bit outdated here. So the scope of this project will be to completely demolish this building and the associated site to make way for a new Arby's site with an associated 2,500 square foot building and associated parking, landscaping, and drive-through. And apologies as I give my presentation here if this is redundant based on the previous presentations, just want to apologize ahead of time. But at least in regards to access for this proposed site, it's going to be similar to the existing site in that the locations and number of access points will be the same. If you go to the site plan, if you could. Whoops, sorry, to the back a couple sheets. A couple more. Sorry. There we go. Perfect. At least in regards to these access points, like the existing site, there are going to be 2 access points connecting to 117th. Both driveways will be one way. One will be ingress, one will be egress. And then there will also be a driveway that's connecting to Detroit Avenue, which will be a full access drive. At least since the locations of these proposed driveways are going to be the same as the existing, the driveways will still be reconstructed in order to improve upon the existing condition that is currently out there today. And then at least as for the driveway that's connecting to Detroit Avenue to the north there, we're currently showing it as a full access drive. And this is because those eastern parking stalls, let's see, just east of that in that general area, they are being shared with the neighboring Brother Lounge building that is to the east of our site here. So since these are shared parking stalls, this is a full access drive onto Detroit to allow for a seamless ingress and egress for the Brothers Lounge customers that are entering and exiting the site through Detroit Avenue here. So that's at least access. In regards to zoning, as previously mentioned, this is I remember it, a local retail business, and is also in the pedestrian retail overlay district. And with this zoning, as previously mentioned, we're required for a conditional use approval for the pedestrian access that is crossing the 3 access points, and also for those 2 parking stalls to the west of the sites that are within 40 feet of the right-of-way. And the reason that we're providing these stalls within the right-of-way is because, as previously mentioned, these eastern stalls are being shared with the Brothers Lounge. So Arby's feels that it's important to include these stalls just to ensure that they have adequate parking for their customers, since this site is not only including parking just for Arby's, but also for the Brothers Lounge as well. But obviously, since we are in this retail overlay district here, we understand that there are strict requirements, and we'll do everything in our power to meet these ordinances. We previously met with the Design Review Committee twice meet and discuss these requirements and make necessary site layout revisions based on their recommendations. So with that, we're willing to keep working with the city here, listen to your guys' recommendations, so that way we could provide the best product we can to the community here. I think that's at least what I wanted to give for my presentation there. I'll now turn it over to the commission. Just feel free to let me know if you have any questions for me. Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to go back. I guess unless the commission members have any technical questions, we won't deliberate until we hear the public comment, but I will ask if there are any questions about the zoning or what you've heard for the applicant.
I have a question for staff. With the number of curb cuts, is there any BZA approval necessary? I understand, like, we had a similar Arby's in Camp's Corners where there was discussions on, do we lose a curb cut, do we not? With the PRR, is there BZA approval to have this number of curb cuts or this width in the local business retail? Not that is a reason I'm opposed. I'm just curious, just to set expectations.
Yeah, I think Adam Davenport, staff planner. I think the way that this works, I'm almost positive, is Xavier can confirm, but when these conditional uses are approved, they still go to the BZA for that variance.
Okay.
The conditional use here, if you decide, if the conditional use doesn't pass here, they go to BZA. BZA wouldn't be needed for the driveways that are there.
Right, so your approval of the conditional use of the driveways is the decision. In that particular case you're referencing, that was requiring a parking variance because they had less than necessary parking, but here they have exceeded the parking.
Okay.
So therefore would not need a parking.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna, is there any other question? I'm gonna take the public comment. So relative to specifically to the conditional use, is there anyone here in person or online who'd like to speak in favor of the conditional use? I don't see anyone online. Anybody in person?
We do not see anyone in person for this case.
Is there anyone online or in person who'd like to speak against or who are opposed to the zoning change? Okay, so we'll close the public portion. I'm going to ask if we'll go first to the conditional use. We will need specifically to state in the motion, I believe, Michael, these conditions here on the screen.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't remember how many curb cuts was proposed for the urgent care. Are they the same number and location that they currently exist in the aerial that we have in front of us? Or, okay.
Yeah, Adam Davenport, yeah, they're the same number and the existing spaces for the existing.
Okay, so there's along the West 117th, I'm sorry, Mr. Davenport, along West 117th, there's actually 3 curb cuts in succession.
In succession, there are.
Okay, and 2 on Detroit.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
for
sorry.
projects. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, Madam Chair, I think I'm gonna try and make a motion. And I believe there's 2 conditions here relative to the location of off-street parking within 40 feet of the public rights of way. And I believe the other condition would be for approval, the location of driveways as it relates to PRO requirements. So I guess what I'm saying here, I move with those 2 conditions to approve those 2 conditions. as currently presented.
Do we have a second?
Sorry, second.
Michael, do you have everything you need?
Yes, I do.
Okay, call the roll.
To the chair, would someone like to provide rationale for the approval?
I think August did. He read what the conditions are.
Got it. So you just,
Yeah, I thought I reiterated the two conditions that I moved to approve, which is parking within 40 feet of the public rights of way and the curb cuts as they currently exist in the PRO overlay.
Madam Chair, that's not the same as a rationale, but it is sufficient.
I guess I'm not. All right, what do you guys need? I thought we talked about you were going to put those conditions up. Do you want me to read them verbatim?
Madam Chair, no, Madam Chair, to the Commissioner, what we're asking for is something along the lines of these driveways exist, they haven't seemed to be a problem in the past, therefore I'm going to approve the conditional use. And,
Okay,
because that's the environment that they're in. So that's the rationale for approving. Motion of making.
okay. Considering the condition of location of the parking occurs within the 40 feet of the public right of way, and also in addition to the curb cuts that exist, we don't have an issue with approval since they currently exist. Thank you.
All right, Michael, do you have what you need?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Sargent. Yes. Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. So we need to do the design review for this case. It's the proposed demolition of the one-story building at 1421 West 117th Street. Can I have a motion to approve? This is for final approval of the demolition.
I make a motion for final approval for the demolition, as stated in, the design review for 1421 West 117th Street, per section 341.08 of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances.
Do you have a second?
Yeah.
I'll call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Sargent. Yes. Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. And the design review case, which is schematic approval, there were conditions, if you can put them back on the screen. It was improved. Was this conceptual or on the other, it
Yeah.
said schematic?
Madam Chair, I believe it's schematic.
Okay. Can someone, staff clarify, because I see something written differently here.
It says consumption on the screen.
Yeah.
The agenda says schematic, the recommendation says conceptual.
Yeah, Madam Chair, it was approved conceptually at the Far West meeting this past Wednesday. The current screen reflects the approved conceptual.
so they downgraded the,
No, it was just for.
okay, so there was just a mistake in the.
It listed differently on the agenda.
It's-
So I need to change that to conceptual.
It's only conceptual.
Okay, conceptual, change that final to conceptual.
Well, no, the demolition was final. This is for the
Okay.
design review case. I'm not, I mean, I have to be honest, I'm not sure we need to see this 3 times, which would be conceptual, schematic, and final. So, and we've just approved the demolition, which
Okay.
is significant. So I'm gonna ask staff what they recommend, because the agenda says schematic. We're gonna see this one more time, probably, from a design perspective. So do you recommend conceptual and then final, or conceptual, schematic, and then final?
Schematic to the chair, the applicant with the schematic, and then apply for a building permit. Regardless, it doesn't seem like the footprint will change very much, whether or not it's schematic or conceptual. So it's up to the commission to determine, is this, because we've approved the PRO, should they be able to go for a building permit? And if so, then yes. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would agree with that. I think it doesn't matter personally to me if it's conceptual or schematic at this level. If it's approved, then I would just recommend that it comes back to staff for the final landscaping details as well as the 2 details on the board itself. The footprint's not going to change. The background, a little bit more background to this case, was that it was tabled the first time it was presented because there was a wraparound redirection drive aisle in front of the new construction of the building. So there's now a patio addition as well as more landscaping in the site. So Far West is comfortable with just seeing minor details of it.
So to the commission, I think it's up to the members, but it is possible to just approve this schematically with the conditions and have it go back to local and staff for final. But it still has to go back to local and staff.
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion to approve of this schematically, this particular project schematically, and that the applicant need not come back to us, but go back before planning and staff to work out the final details with the following conditions. Northeastern parking understood to be shared with Brothers Lounge, wrap. Oops, I don't have my reading glasses on. Wrap board, western elevation around the east to align with entrance door, and address unpainted brick section.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. To the applicant, since you haven't been here before, this is good news for you. You do not have to come back here unless you cannot agree with the local design review or the staff. You always can appeal to us, but we're giving you the ability to work out the details at the design review and with the staff. And as long as you are able to do that, then the director can sign off on your permit.
Excellent. Well, I definitely appreciate that and appreciate everyone's time here today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is, this is Far West Design Review, Laura's Home Apartment Building. New construction. This is seeking final approval at 18120 Puritas Avenue. And Ryan Bodine and anyone else who's here to speak to this, I need to swear you in. So do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Yes.
Or two folks. All right. I think they have your slides, so go ahead. And I mean, this is also in Councilman Slice's ward. I need to ask a question just because I actually don't know the answer. From the city mission, do you know if the Cleveland Foundation has funding into Laura's Home?
Dennis, do you know the answer to that?
No.
What was the answer? No?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I just wanted to be sure. Councilman Slice, this is in your ward. Anything you'd like to say in advance of them going?
Just that Laura's Home underwent an expansion recently, and then this is a supplemental project that with the intent of providing a space for women and children to kind of transition out of the main facility and towards more independent living. So kind of almost like a step down as we partner with other agencies, especially to help families be able to land and often stay in the West Park neighborhood so that their kids aren't leaving school and shifting school. So it's a great project. They're a great community partner. They don't ever need city money for it, and I love that part of it too. So so really enthusiastic for this project.
Great. Okay. All right, go ahead to the applicants.
Okay, good morning, committee members. Thank you for your time. On the meeting today, you have myself and Brian Bodine with Caliber Building. We're the design builder for the project. We also have Dennis Magda, who is a director of facilities for the City Mission and Lower's Home, here today to present. As the councilman mentioned, this project is being built on the existing Lower's Home property on Puritas. And the goal here is to have the residents of Lower's Home, move from the Lower's Home building to these units to continue their development. And the plan is to have them expected stay here is between 18 and 24 months, and then out into I'll say more single family type homes. So with that, we are adding on to we're building these buildings on the east side of the existing Lower's Home property. There's a vacant lot there currently now. There's also a pavilion, basketball court, and playground on that property. We're building to the east of those items as well. There's just an aerial view. Part of this project, we are adding a little bit of parking. We're only adding 4 parking spaces with the zoning code. And the main reason for that is that the residents, not very many residents have their own cars. They do rely on public transportation. And also with the existing parking lot on the east, north, and west side of Lower's Home, we have enough parking and meet the zoning requirements for parking. Next slide, please. Just some photos for context here. These are shots from Puritas. Next slide, please. And then these are photos of the existing or of the project site. So you can see the white vinyl fence there is the eastern border, which borders up to Chambers Funeral Home, and then there's also an apartment building there as well. You see pictures of the existing pavilion, basketball court, and playground, which will all remain intact. Next slide. Then here's our proposed site. We've gone through a couple versions of this with the design review, just based on zoning requirements, and we landed on this layout. I think for the better of the project and for the purpose of the mission. So we have 4 buildings. They will be identical buildings. The only exception will be the northern 2 buildings will have basements. The southern 2 will not. And that's really just that's a result of the soil conditions on the site. We do have some unsuitable soils we have to deal with, and figuring for those 2 northern buildings, basements will be a good solution to deal with the unsuitable soils. So as I mentioned, we have a new drive coming off the southern end of the property, coming off the existing drive, which will have 4 parking spaces. One of those will be ADA to serve the ADA units we are building here. And then we have walks kind of connecting to the existing property as well. One of the requests of the City Mission was, being that this is housing will have children in it, was to maintain as much green space as possible. That is the reason for the limited size of the parking lot, is just so we can keep that, they currently have a large open grassy area. They want to maintain as much of that as we can. And just overall landscaping plan, we're trying to keep the landscaping very simple, minimize the amount of trees. Again, just keep that open green space. One of the requests of the design review was to add some, shade trees to the project. We do have a couple on there now that were shown on the site plan. The intent, if you want to go back 1 slide, you can kind of see where those trees are located. So there's trees located between the 2 buildings, meant to be a smaller shade tree, and then one on the north end of the southern buildings, and then one on the west end of the northern buildings. The design review asked we, think about adding a larger, anchor type tree to provide some shade and just, overall, just for the better of the residents here. So that is something we will definitely consider. Again, just trying to maintain and keep open lawn space, but also add some shade there. And landscaping around the buildings will be minimal, just, some shrubs, nothing too significant. You can move forward, please. Next slide. Next slide. As far as stormwater, again, with the minimal pavement we will have, we are connected to the existing storm sewer on the property. We will have some yard inlets out in the lawn area, and then a few catch basins down in the new pavement. Next slide, please. Next slide. So floor plans, as I mentioned, the buildings are essentially identical. They will all be 3-bedroom units. And each building will have 2 on the first floor, 2 on the second floor. I say the only exception will be the ADA units. And elevations, again, wanted to keep a residential and simple feel to the buildings. So the buildings will have vinyl siding on them. Each building will have its own color scheme. So, provide some differentiation between the buildings. We did include canopies over the entry doors to the units, just to provide some protection from the elements as residents are coming in the door. Next slide, please. And then as far as the building finishes, again, we do have 4 color schemes. This is the tan color scheme. I'm going to stop for 1 sec just to mention that John Jelenic, who is the CFO of the City Mission, has just joined us on the call here. So we'll keep going. So again, the color schemes, this is our, the beige and light brown type color scheme. If you want to move forward to the next slide. And again, along with a little bit darker brown. One request that the design review had was to just think about the trim on the building. So we will be trimming out the windows with a white or off-white. May provide some white or off-white color at the corners as well, just to provide a little bit of offset. Next slide, please. And here's the green color scheme. Similar comments there, just adding some trim to add some detail in the front of the buildings. The intent is to use vertical vinyl siding on 2 bump outs and then horizontal vertical siding everywhere else. Next slide, please. This last one is the blue color scheme. And that is it for the presentation. I guess before we finish, I don't know, John, I know you joined late. We talked about the intent of the project and what it will serve. I don't know if you want to add anything as closing remarks there.
Sure. As we hope to move forward with this project, the situation that we find ourselves in at the City Mission is we have a lot of women and children that we're able to serve, and even more women and children experiencing homelessness who unfortunately we have to turn away. So our hope is in moving forward with this project, we are potentially going to increase the number of women and children that we serve by almost 50%. And in addition to that, it's really our our transitional housing program is really the opportunity to help these families kind of have a good runway from the crisis of homelessness and recovering in our program to a more independent living situation through this 18-month program.
To the chair of the commission, from the staff's perspective, this is a really strong project. It serves a really important cause in the community, and also because of the way that everything is set back to us, this is a no-brainer for a final approval. And any more comments?
One quick question before I make a motion, because I know it was unanimously approved locally with the conditions. I heard you address the shade trees. Did you mention the sidewalk? Because I do agree that that's it's what do they call it on a college campus when it's like
Desire lines.
the desire lines, like people are gonna cut across the grass and we're gonna end up probably putting down concrete anyway. So I think that it's an understandable recommendation to extend that sidewalk up so that people have a more direct route. I don't know if that's been discussed here, but I do think that I would put that into the final motion, but I don't know if it's already in works.
Yeah, we did talk about that at design review, and that is something we are considering adding to the project. So yeah, we will definitely take that into consideration. And the recommendation makes a lot of sense.
All right, I will move approval of 2023-029 Laura's Home for apartment buildings new construction for final approval with the conditions of adding a couple more shade trees to the site as was described in the presentation, considering aligning the doors and working with staff on that, and then the addition of the extension of the sidewalk between the two units across the grassy area.
Second, I do have, first of all, great providing alternative housing solutions across many sectors. And one is just, this is a critique about presentation and technique. It would be easier if you use some sort of technique to really delineate what's new and what's existing. I actually had to go back to Google Earth to figure out what was new and existing. It's just how you shade things, how you color things, rendering things. Now, and that's for everyone that's on this call. It makes it easier for us to follow what's going on without a lot of guessing. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the feedback.
I made the motion. Yes, he made the motion. I second. And Lillian's needs some ears, some sound.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Call the roll, please. I'm talking. I was just talking. Call the roll, please.
3 years. We're 3 years into this, Lillian.
I know.
Yes. Luker.
Yes.
Curry.
I'm going to abstain just because I actually am not 100% sure that the Cleveland Foundation doesn't have funding. So just to be extra safe, I'd like to abstain.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Sargent. Yes. Slide.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, good luck. Great project. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.
The next cases, there's multiple cases are for the same project for Flats Downtown Design Review. So we are going to take, Director Wong, I believe it's the next 3 items, correct?
There are 3 items, and just to kind of give you a quick recap, the project team did go to design review yesterday, and there were actually 4 agenda items. There were 3 actions, and then the last agenda item was tabled at design review. The item that was tabled at the time was the site plan and the rehab for the project. So just for your all's sake, we still will show the site plan as information so that you can see what the demos and the sort of proposed end state is, just simply for discussion purposes. So
Okay.
I hope that's clear. The three
Yeah,
items.
that's helpful.
for each
What I
item.
would say is that what I'd like to do is hear the full presentation, obviously what the project is, and the demolitions, and then we will act after on them individually. But first, I think we should hear the whole project and presentation from the team. Who is here to speak to this matter? Okay, so I heard one person, but anybody in the room who's going to speak or on Zoom, I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, are you the only person here for this matter?
Does anyone
I'm
else
the
speak?
only one speaking.
Okay.
Not sure I should look.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Just so I know.
Go ahead, Ben. You got it.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. My name is Dave Brunenwald. I'm the Vice President of Development for Jacobs Entertainment. As most of you know, we own and operate the Nautica complex in the Flats. We're here to breathe some life into a block heading north, something that we started to try to do about 30 years ago. So, Nautica has been around since we started in the mid 80s. And in the course of doing that, we saved two, and are about to save a third of the most historic buildings on the West Bank. Powerhouse being one of them, which of course provided power for the Cleveland streetcars. The White Sewing Machine Building, which you now know as the Apartments at Nautica, which at one time was the largest employer of Hungarians in the city, actually in the country. And the third is the Foundry Building, which is not the subject of the demolition discussion, which is as part of this project. So we're very cognizant of the reasons for saving historic buildings. We've saved several others in the warehouse district and a number of them around the state of Ohio and in other parts of the country. The fact is that every historic building can't be saved. Your own demolition code provides a number of criteria, which have to do not just with the historic nature of the building, but also its ability to be converted to use, its ability to find alternate uses, but also, is it feasible to do it? What impact does it have in the area? And and that sort of thing. So this building was part of an acquisition of properties to the north of the bridge. As I said, we acquired our first parcel in the 90s. The block that we're talking about is the one you see in yellow. And we, over the last 15 years, acquired the other 4 buildings that are on the property. The white box goes out over the bridge. There are no buildings under the bridge. There is a parking lot that we lease from the county. We have for a very long time. We have been trying unsuccessfully for a long time to do something with this block. We have this property on the market for 5 years, a lot of lookers, no takers. Perhaps you have a picture of the, if you go through one, keep going, one more. It's here someplace. There's a picture of the building. Yeah, I guess that first photograph's okay. Go back to the first photograph. One more. Go back one more. Yeah, this one's fine. This is good. The building that's part of the project is the one you see here in gray. It's called the Foundry. It, frankly, is the most important building on the block. This block was the home to many uses, industrial uses, but Globe Iron was the big one. The building that is the subject of the demolition is the one behind the gray building that you see there. There are some other photographs of that building, both interior and exterior. And as I mentioned, we have been trying for a long time to, that's it there. We have been trying for a long time to figure out uses for the area north of the bridge we call the North Block, or in this case, the Metropolis Block, because the Foundry's most recent name was the Metropolis Building. This building has, as I said, was on the market along with the other ones for 5 years with brokers. I walked the building with many people. It's just a tough building. And the fact is that not every historic building can be saved. we've, I think, done an admirable job of saving the important ones, including the gray one that's in this picture, which is, in my view, the most important of the block. This building, this block in particular, went through the most rigorous environmental assessments because, ironically, this is the most environmentally sensitive block on the west bank of the flats. The white sewing machine did not conduct the sort of activities that Globe Iron did. The properties nearest the river in the early days, it was all unloading of ships. One of the buildings that's there now wasn't historic. We saved nonetheless, called the Sugar Warehouse. It's where Shooters is, and that's because it was a sugar warehouse back in the early 1900s. But this block had heavy industrial uses. The reports that I have run 300 pages of the nature of this block. I think those are part of the issue here. People, potential buyers of the property become concerned when they see old reports. Structurally, the building is in pretty bad shape. In 2018, we had an estimate, a third party did an estimate of the renovation of the building. And they put the price tag at $1 million just to stabilize it, not to renovate it, not to change windows, just to stabilize the building because it's old and it's seen better days, obviously. I put that number today at $2.5 million, just to stabilize the building. The floor plan itself doesn't really lend itself to residential, which is often talked about because of the narrowness of the main wing and the inability to have units on both sides. You have a single corridor. And if you can go back to the picture of the building, yeah, you'll notice all the power lines along the exterior of the building. Flats in general has lots of power lines running in Nevada. This building in particular, you can see the power lines that run there. So in our view, this building it's just can't be saved. I've had numerous people tell me it can't be saved. There's no practical way to convert this in some way. The other thing is that, we take safety very, very seriously in the flats. We have 1 million people a year coming to events at Windows on the River. School kids coming down to the Greater Cleveland Aquarium. People living in the apartments, Nautica, and I think there's some other properties that we don't know that have housing as well. And so we take this very seriously. I can tell you that the deterioration of the neighborhood is the biggest detraction from safety and poor lighting. And this block has had that for years. We have tried desperately to try to figure out how to do this. We invested in lighting over the years. This, in my mind, for the first time, gives us the opportunity to take this block, to take down the buildings that are not integral to it, to save the building that is the most important on the block, and to restore life to this block, and lighting, and vibrancy in an area that can be enjoyed, by everyone. So the streets and the flats in general in pretty bad shape, and it's projects like this that will give us all reason to look deeper at improving those, and have my fingers crossed that the Center Street String Bridge will open this year. It's been closed for almost 2 years. I want to put this into a larger perspective as well. If you could go to the slide that shows the map of Nautica. There it is, that one. As I said, we started by acquiring properties in the mid-'80s. The Sugar Warehouse is at the very top. That's where Shooters is. The powerhouse is in the far right. We own most of the properties that you see in this block to the north. The difficulty with the block to the north is that it's an industrial area. The cement plant will be there for the rest of my life, and probably yours. The salt mines have, I'm told, decades worth of salt. These are the people that don't think in terms of years, they think in terms of decades. And so just trying to introduce a use that is compatible with that area is proven very difficult. But over the course of the last 30 years, we've invested over $100 million to renovate, to save the buildings we have saved, to rebuild the boardwalk. In the period 2022 to 2024, including this project, we will spend another $22 million, most of which has been spent predominantly with lighting, brand new boardwalk from bridge to bridge, the landscaping, the fencing, all an effort to improve what it is that we're going on. In addition, we acquired a new cruise ship, and Lady Caroline started sailing a couple of weeks ago. We and our partner AEG has invested heavily in the pavilion, which continues to be a mainstay of the property. Although I admit I'm too old, I don't know the names of most of the bands that play there. So this project alone is about a $5 million investment in the site. It also creates additional jobs. Over the years, we have paid about $92 million in taxes, $3 million a year, and we've created 500 jobs on the West Bank. So, along with conducting certified historic rehabilitations on several of these properties. So we are, and haven't been for a long time, we're not just bars and restaurants. We made that decision 12 years ago when Greater Cleveland Aquarium, we knew that we needed to change the tone of the flats, and that's what gave rise to the Greater Cleveland Aquarium, which today has guests from all over the country, predominantly from Northeast Ohio, and school kids by the tens of thousands and seniors who come down to enjoy life here on the property. I want to make two notions about the I'm going to let these guys show you the project, but I want to make two notions about it. I have spent my career working on historic renovations. I've saved numerous buildings and worked on many of the projects in the city. And I can tell you that saving the building, in my view, does very little to remind people what was here in the flats. If you ask the average person on the street, they don't know what the Globe Iron was. They don't know what took place. But if you put up something in its place, keep the key building, the foundry, call it Globe Iron to remind everyone, use some of the materials from the building that we're tearing down in sidewalks and walls and so forth, and other placards that remind people what was there. That's how you teach people the history of Globe Island. Not. In fact, I'm not sure I could have told you the name of this building until 2 months ago, because I've always known it as the Metropolis in U-Haul. So this really gives us an opportunity to do something, I think, in a way that will educate people in a way they're not being educated today. The other is that, when we started this north of the bridge, we bought property. We also, you may remember, we bought the old Coast Guard station. It was our intention then to extend out to Whiskey Island, much of which you've seen happen with the new bridge that crosses the railroad tracks and other things. But reality sets in when, after years, you can't get people interested in buying and people investing. And this, I think, provides us with a great opportunity. As I said, it's a $5 million investment. It will generate $350,000 to $400,000 in additional taxes for the city. And it will add to the West Bank's and our ability to put on greater minutes. You know, when we started this, I keep meaning to do this as I get older, and somebody check this, you know, there was nothing on 271 on the west side. There was no Fairway, there was no Westwood, there was no Crawford Park, there was Village. And people came down here to eat. That's why they came. They came to the river. We are much more event-driven today with the Improv, with the Music Box, with Windows on the Grill. Greater Cleveland Aquarium has been probably the single greatest addition in the last 10 years to what it is that we do. And this allows us to take another step to respect history, to save the Foundry Building, and to bring people back downtown and do it in a way I think you'll find very appealing from what these gentlemen have to say.
Sure, thank you for the introduction. I'm wondering if we could actually go through some of the slides so that we can begin looking at the.
That'd be great.
Yes.
I was just wrapping up, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think the staff is gonna make a report first.
Was there any, are we finished with the photos? Are you finished with your presentation?
I am finished with my presentation. Jesse Swigert will present the project for informational purposes.
Okay.
So through the chair, the new site plan that they want.
Say that again, Director Vaughn.
The architect would like to present the new site plan, the proposed for
Okay.
information.
Okay, so let's go quickly, because then I'd like the director and staff to make a report and recommendations.
Maybe it's. Would you like me to swear in? This is Jesse with LDA Architects.
Yes, I thought we did that. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay.
So this proposal is looking at what we propose for the site to look like with the demolition proposed by Nautica. LDA in this presentation represents AEG Presents. The building that we're looking to renovate we're calling it Globe Iron. It is the pitched roof foundry building you see here. These are some old photos from the 80s, looking on Elm Street towards the side of the venue. If you want to go to the next slide. Here's the overall site plan, which we saw before. So the part that we're focused on for our project is the kind of inner L shape, which includes the large higher pitched roof, and then a one-story portion behind the foundry that will remain. And then the rest of the site, in our proposal, is envisioning it if it is cleared off. Just for note that Spruce Avenue has been vacated and is owned by the Nautica Jacobs team. So as a vacated street, not a public street. Next slide. Here are views from the four corners around Main Avenue, Center Street, Spruce and Elm Street. We saw a couple of those photos before. Next slide. Here's the overall site plan. This includes a parking extension that is underneath the bridge with the demolition of the two kind of white buildings. I believe it's the two white buildings that we were talking about earlier, as well as this is envisioning the possible site with the Globe Iron 4-story building demolished. We use half of Spruce Street to the top left of the plan. We use half of Spruce Street for our service, bus parking, truck parking and docking to serve the venue to Globe Iron. And then that will be fenced in. Garbage and collection will be out of that fence as well. The gates to the fence are held back from the public right-of-way, so they can swing outwards without going into the public right-of-way. And then to the south of the Globe Iron renovation, we will enclose a courtyard. Right now, we're looking at an 8-foot tall fence that is anti-climb, but still transparent, so you can see the activity within the courtyard. The primary reason for that is we are providing security access into the courtyard. So when you check into the venue and show your ticket, you basically are what AG calls clean once you're inside the courtyard. So we need to make sure that the courtyard and the tenant and the patrons of the venue stay safe and nothing can be passed through or around the fence. And then we are still maintaining the parking access into the lot, which is out of our scope of work to the left. We have ADA accessible routes going into the courtyard and from the parking lot under the bridge. And then we're looking at doing some wider landscaping and in front of the Globe Iron off of Center Street to allow for, this would be a 1,200 person venue. So we want to make sure that there's lots of room for queuing and while maintaining safe street conditions and safe pedestrian things when events are getting ready. Next slide, please. Here's a proposed landscape plan. Trying to do an abundant amount of street trees, bushes, and things to kind of make it feel more green and more natural with the plantings. And this includes possibly doing a few plants under the parking lot under the bridge. However, I think at a conceptual level, we're still exploring to make sure that the plant life can survive underneath the bridge, mostly because of a lot of the salt runoff that comes from the bridge. So we're still exploring that. If you want to go to the next slide. Here's an example. It's not a good picture behind the fence, but you can see the fence is very transparent to see the action and activity behind into the courtyard from the pedestrian level. The courtyard itself, we're looking at doing primarily crushed stone, crushed limestone as the main surface with accents of brick pavers. And then much similar to what Nautica and AEG has done at Jacobs Pavilion, we want to use, instead of natural grass, artificial grass. This says artificial turf there, but I want to clarify it's artificial grass with street trees planted inside of it. We do these cutouts. However, whatever we do with the infill to cutouts around the trees would be at grade level, so it's not a drop off. Next slide, please. Here are some of the site features we are proposing at the moment. Some pedestrian scale overhead lighting, bike parking, benches along Center Street. And then we're proposing an arched barrel vault type of canopy at the main entry to allow for security, the magnetometers and pedestrians going into the venue, safe cover if there's weather, as well as additional lighting in that area as well. Next slide, please. This is just a plan layout for reference. In this plan, Center Street is to the left, Spruce is to the top, and then Elm Street is to the right. So the service area is right behind the stage. You can see the area in blue. That's where a lot of the back of house service stuff. If there's a show, all this stuff kind of goes in through the blue area and onto the stage, as well as the talent access. The main entry into the building would be through the courtyard. You can see the light kind of pink lobby area. That is the main lobby going into the venue. And the main floor space is right in front of the stage, as well as the light blue in the bottom left. This is office areas for the staff, as well as a box office, which could be accessed from inside the lobby and also out on the main avenue side of the building. One thing to note too is for emergency egress, we are adding an additional egress to the side of the building along Elm Street. If you look back at those pictures from the 80s, there's an existing stair and doorway that is in the same location we're proposing. We still maintain it over 8 feet of clear pedestrian width down Elm Street. Next slide, please. This is just the upper mezzanine levels for reference. Next slide, please. Here are the exterior elevations. Right now, we're still kind of tweaking the color palette a little bit, right? This is where we're landed today. AEG is still going through a branding exercise to finalize colors. But this is kind of, we wanted to start the more neutral palette to start with. All signage shown on the elevations is a placeholder only and not the final. We would do that separately once branding is 100% complete, but they show the intent of locations for the signage. Next slide, please. Overall, for the masonry brick, we're going to repaint whatever brick is currently painted. As demolition comes down, if there's facades that we cannot currently see, if they are unpainted, they will remain unpainted and be tuck pointed. So we will not paint any brick that is currently not painted. Along the main avenue elevation, we will be adding 4 new additional windows into the offices, and as well as 2 ticket booths or 2 ticket windows in the box office along Main Avenue as well. Those 4 windows are sized based on the existing openings we can see from the inside of the property that have been blocked in. So we're going to maintain those exact same window sizes on that you can see from the inside of the building. And you see a couple courtyard elevations. Again, the fence would be transparent. It's about a 1 inch by 3 inch hole for the anti-climb fence to help prevent things from getting passed through. Next slide, please. Here's just an overall aerial view. The colors are a little more sandy than what the color palette we showed on the front of the slide. I think mostly trying to show some warm violet light, but we got to refine that as we keep moving forward with the paint colors. You can kind of see how the site layout, the street interaction is along center, and pedestrian queuing lines going into the venue as it is there. Next slide, please. We're still doing some lumen studies on pedestrian lighting for the both the courtyard and out at the street. There's some areas we're kind of focusing on for building lighting as we continue to develop this plan. Next slide, please. And then just note for site lighting, we're also looking at providing new lighting in the parking area under the bridge as well. Just another video showing the service area, the courtyard, and the landscaping along Center Street. Next slide, please. This is a view from Elm Street. So relatively, this elevation stays relatively the same with additional just new painted colors. You can see the service entry off of going towards Bruce. Next slide, please. This is off of Center Street, looking back towards the Center and Main Street corner, looking at the windows into the office area in the box office, and then the landscaping along Center Street. Next slide, please. And then again, we're studying the photometrics and lighting at nighttime for the streetscape here. Next slide, please. And then just another view of the courtyard. And I think there's one more slide after this. And then with a view within the courtyard. Again, there's a little warmer tones in the courtyard shown for twilight, sun setting, lighting quality there, which we'll continue to refine. And that's the proposal at the moment for the Globe Ironworks site, or the foundry, I should say, just to clarify.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. I'm gonna, before we open it up to the commission member for questions, the director and staff would like to say a few words, and then we'll open it up for commission members.
Great. Thank you to the chair. Just for procedures, again, reminding you that the site plan you just saw was just for information, so you can consider what the demos are going towards. The design review committees yesterday did approve the demolition of the 2 smaller buildings, which are 1 level, machine shop types. The design review committee did unanimously disapprove the demolition of the 4-story building, the applicant decided they would still like to come forward to the planning commission for discussion. We have Assistant Director Margaret Fields with us, as well as Carl Brunges from the Landworks Commission. And we oppose the demolition of the 4-story building. So we have some reasons. We've provided some very excellent reasons for why, and we'd like to go to the slides to show you some of the history of the site as well as the history of the building. So Assistant Director Fields.
So, the committee, when they made their
Stand closer to the.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
Alright, so when the committee made their recommendation for demolition, not to approve the demolition of the building at 2390 Center Street, the purpose, of course, was because of what the code requires. So the criteria for action, and I'll briefly go over this, is in considering a request to demolish or move a building or structure located within the design review district, the City Planning Commission and its local design review advisory committee shall consider the following factors in making its decision to approve or disapprove the request. First, the architectural and history significance of the subject building and structure. Number 2, the significance of the building or structure and contributing to the architectural or historic character of its environs. 3, in the case of a request to move a building or structure, the relationship between the location of the subject building or structure or its overall significance. 4, the present and potential economic viability of the subject building or structure given its physical condition and marketability. 5, the presence of conditions on the subject property that are dangerous or detrimental to the immediate area and cannot be reasonably remedied other than by the proposed demolition. Number 6, the degree to which the applicant proposed to salvage and facilitate reuse of structures proposed for demolition. And number 7, the design quality and significance and appropriateness of the proposed reuse of the property. And so the thing that they determined, of course, is that the property is pretty significant to that area. It's a lot of buildings have been demolished in that area, and so we're trying to preserve some of them. In addition to that, there was no evidence submitted to the committee that showed what the developers had done to try to preserve the building. And so one of the reasons that they really were not supportive of it, they wanted to see some evidence that there was due diligence done to make sure that it could not be saved. In addition to that, it's on the national, it is a National Historic Register. So it's been added to, it's been added to that list, but also in addition to it being on that list, it is also in an area where we rezoned it to urban form overlay. Part of the reason that we did the rezoning is because of the fact that there's a sea of parking out there. What we're trying to do is make it a pedestrian friendly area, an area where residential development can take place. And so it was rezoned to prevent the sea of parking, and I think the demolition of this building will contribute to that. In addition to that, it's also in the Vision for the Valley plan was identified as it's a building that should be saved and preserved for adaptive reuse. So those are some of the reasons that we as city planning do not support it, as well as the design review committee.
And Carl, do you have
Thank you. Globe Ironworks building was added to the National Register in 1994, and it is part of the city's industrial heritage and our shipbuilding industry. The Globe Ironworks actually date back to the 1850s on this site across the street here. There are a precious few of our buildings remaining on the West Bank Flats. One of the committee members estimated 70% of the industrial buildings have been lost in this area. While there may not be a contiguous district here, there are other buildings and structures, both locally and nationally designated in the immediate area, that are connected and a part of the overall heritage. This building and the adjoining Foundry building were identified as anchor buildings for reuse, and this is to create a better connectivity between the Lakeview Terrace residences and the Ohio City neighborhood. Globe Ironworks building may be a candidate for conversion into housing and or other uses, including support for the proposed new use of the Foundry, which can help in that activity. The reuse of the Foundry building is great and will breathe new life into one of the oldest industrial buildings in the city. We have lost 25 individually listed National Register properties in Cleveland and need to hold these to a higher standard. Based upon the proposed use of the lot, demolition of the building is not appropriate. While we understand we cannot save every building, there are those in the city that we need to take a stand on and to say no. The applicants need to provide better evidence as to why this building needs to come down. Staff has no objection to the demolition of the approval at 2316 Center Street, 2313 Elm Street, but would recommend denial as presented of the demolition of the Globe Ironworks building and for the developer to find a more creative and sustainable solution for this important site.
And if I could wrap my comments quickly, we did talk a little bit about the investments that are coming forward. The new Heritage Park 2 is complete. The commission approved a TIF a few weeks ago for the new Apollo building that will be renovated in this area. Of course, Whiskey Island connector is a fantastic addition, along with the Cleveland Foundation Towback Trail section. And then also it's a pretty active area. There's volleyball at Mulberries. There's quite a bit of recreation already. And so the hope is that there would be a future use purpose for this building. So we'd invite your discussion. It's a lot to take in, and we're really curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay. Commission members, comments, questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, maybe it's me today, but I couldn't follow what they were telling me today. There's where the buildings are located in relation to the new development. I had to sit here and piece together which building was what building. It's very difficult for me to understand what they're trying to do because I don't understand the entire story. It's not a cohesive presentation, in my opinion. Maybe it's purposely so, but I need to understand this a little better, in my opinion.
One separate from this exact item, but I'm surprised that there are National Register properties that aren't also local landmarks. I guess my assumption would have been that if you have that higher threshold designation, that it would sort of automatically be the jurisdiction of the Landmarks Commission, and not the Planning Commission. So, but my assumption is that the property is before us because it's not a local landmark. I guess, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, I think that I would be curious, separate from this project necessarily, but to know what our census of properties are that are on the National Registry but aren't a local landmark, because as it comes to some of these talking points, there's a lot of similarities in background and expertise, but arguably the Landmarks Commission might be a little bit more of the subject matter expert on some of this stuff than the Planning Commission. No offense, guys. I guess I think it's tough with the criteria because it's not like they're like weighted, like they're just kind of presented. So you're having to, how do you weigh the architectural historical significance against the economic viability, right? It's not saying that one's more preferential to the other. I guess my curiosity, and this kind of comes back to what I think was maybe said at the local committee, is kind of what's the status of the proposed project as far as fundraising, what resources are available for reuse that aren't available to any property but become available as you're on the National Registry. Like, I do think that the economic side of it could be teased out more, and I guess I'm perhaps leaning towards not opposition down the road to demolition, but seeking additional information essentially. So I don't know if the project team wants to comment on, they said it's a $5 million project. Is this $5 million waiting in the wings? Is, what's the condition of the building? Is it condemned? Is it, what's the cost of, has there been a financial modeling beyond the $1 million for mothballing of what it actually would cost to bring the building up for a proposed reuse?
I don't know whether I'm allowed to answer his question.
Through the chair,
Yes.
would you like the applicant to respond?
Yes.
To answer your specific question about the money is in the bank, we're prepared to go forward. I think if we don't get, this project is on the back burner and we'll continue to wait to figure out how to do something. I heard loud and clear yesterday that we needed to provide additional information about what we've done and what the feasibility is and what the problems are with the building. I said yesterday, I will say again today, I'm happy with a lot of information. Believe me, I have drawers full.
Can I ask it a different way? I think the question is, if we made it a condition that you couldn't start demolition until you pulled the permit for the entire project, I think that's what we're asking, right? So we would not allow the demolition until you actually pulled the permit for the entire project. Is that something you're prepared to do?
Yeah, I think I understand. So you're saying I can't tear down the two, I'll just continue. Yeah.
So you actually pulled the permit, submitted all the final, construction documents and pulled the permit on the new construction or the whole project. You couldn't do demo it separately.
You're talking about construction of the building?
everything, the site, the new venue. If, I'm asking if we, and I think we can do this, which is to require, I'm not saying what the commission should do. I'm asking the councilman's question, which is, if we made it conditional that you could not demolish anything until you pulled the entire project permit for what you're proposing here, are you prepared to do that?
It's a complicated question. Here's why. Demolition will take a while. Winter's coming. I don't know how long the process will be. This is somewhat of a time-sensitive project because we're trying to get this up and running. I have no difficulty saying that if we couldn't start demolition until there were conceptual approval for the plans of the
No, I'm
project.
asking until you pull the whole permit. If you,
Yeah, that's a tough, that would be hard.
then what's the urgency to do demo right now?
Just a matter of timing. We are going into winter. This has to take place within that context. The site, it's hard to leave an open site. We have to grade it and so forth. Otherwise, we're waiting till springtime, which means we're not opening this building until the 20th. That's a general.
But you're not
timeframe.
prepared to start any of the interior, any of the construction, right? For the other building.
If I can speak,
Anyway,
Jesse
we don't
Thaldian.
have to belabor the point. My point is that, anyway, I was just trying to specifically answer the councilman's question.
I would ask that you not
Which is that
condition the
there are
demolition.
that right now there aren't assurances that the project's moving forward.
If I may speak, Jesse Thaldian.
Oh, I see.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Jesse.
As far as, so we represent AEG, the tenant, which is just mostly the interior of the Foundry building. We are trying to move forward as fast as possible with the interior renovation, and I think we would like to be able to be in a process for this fall to start submitting for permits for interior work if possible, and not necessarily be tied to the approval of the demolition of those buildings. As a tenant, there's a couple solutions for us to make the entries work, but we don't want to necessarily belabor us getting a demolition permit for the interior only of the Foundry building. I just want to.
Through the chair, commission member Sargent has a comment.
I think again, even that would be contingent on seeing a site plan that doesn't show this full build out. Like if you want, I guess, approval for the demolition, you'd have to see a site plan that shows no courtyard and what it would look like to do the interior renovation, the parking lots in the back, and not have this full build out, because it's very hard to understand what that vision would be.
Yeah, I apologize, I'm old, and I like it takes a while to go on, but I think I finally understand your question. That is, we have no intention of knocking down this building and then maybe the project happened, we have no intention. So I don't have any difficulty in saying that we can provide the required documentation and assurances that we won't be demolishing these buildings without proof that this project is going forward. That no funding is required, I don't have to apply for loans. I think that's what you.
But I think to the other point, I think it's a very different project without this courtyard, without a lot of all the things that are in this presentation. So I think you would have to see what it's gonna be before, again, just one last point. I think again, to Landmark's point, in terms of like the next use, I think there hasn't been, sufficient enough adaptive reuse of material, or I think naming it Globe Iron is cool, but I think there should be some more significant strides to reuse some of the material. I think like the entryway thing is maybe something calling to a gesture to the building, but I think there's not sufficient enough, calling to that architectural quality in regards to demolition. I also think to put the loading dock on like the side of the coolest part of the Foundry building also seems like a misstep to me. I think that Front facing side seems like, I mean, the most interesting part architecturally to that building, and then to have loading kind of right in front of that seems, again, tremendous misstep. So, I mean, again, as the site plan looks like right now, even without the demolition, it doesn't seem like it's that great.
Yeah, I want to make one observation that goes to a question that was asked earlier, and that is that Spruce is not a public street. Spruce was vacated years ago, 6 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
The intention that it would be used along these lines.
Right.
An extension.
Sorry, I'm going to close to the applicant. We've closed the kind of public portion of this. We're not taking any more comments. It's really for the commission now, unless there's a direct question.
Commission member Anthony had a comment.
Madam Chair, for the record, I guess it's more of a procedure question for us. So with design review approving the first two buildings but not approving the third, are we seeking for the applicant to come back with the evidence as requested? And if so, then what is the next steps to take as far as?
So if I could answer that question, then I see Commissioner Member Cooper also has some comments or questions.
I
So
was gonna make a motion
Oh.
when you're done.
yeah, sure. So I mean, there's a few different options here. So if you look at the code here, there is the option under 341.08B that the commission may delay action for up to 6 months in order to allow for the economic viability studies to be conducted. At the end of such period, commission shall either approve or disapprove the demo based on what's found. So you could give up a period up to 6 months to do that determination. The design review body is an advisory body, so they advise and make recommendations to the commission. So it still is within your purview to make a decision. You can agree with them, or you can go a different direction from the design review body. The staff is still committed. We still believe that this building should be disapproved for demolition. And if you wanted to seek evidence, you could follow this or put a condition on whatever motion, whatever direction you go.
I think that then the comment, and I'll just echo what fellow commission members have said, it is hard to visualize what the property will look like absent the demolition of 2390 Central Street. So that would be, for me, in order to have a full understanding of what the scope would look like, necessary for it.
And you can still, I mean, whatever action you make, you can always tell them, even if it's a disapproval, like go back, take a look at the site plan, come back to us with a new idea. Right, that's possible.
But I think that the point of being able to demo the other two buildings is that we're holding off disapproving all demo until we get a new site plan.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's what I was gonna propose.
Okay.
Okay. August, I need you to make a motion, 3 motions, actually.
Yes.
So
Yep,
just so you know,
37,
3
38, 39. Got it.
Yep.
So in light of, quite frankly, the confusion here, I think I would like to just make a general comment, then I'll go through all the motions. I think it would be incredibly helpful if you guys can identify on your site plan where these buildings are being torn down, so we have context. There's no recognition historically where the footprint of these buildings. That's my confusion. I had to sit here and like piece things together. You know, when you cause that, then that's when all the questions happen. And also I think to Madam Chair's point, and I believe Mr. Slice's point, if this is not going to happen in one fell swoop, at least some consideration to phasing or staging how that might occur. So having said that, I'm going to propose that we postpone all of these demolitions. I'm going to start with DF 2023-037, the move to postpone.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
By the way, that was an excellent rationale.
You get a gold star.
I ain't dumb, but I do follow some things. It just took me a while to warm up.
Luker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Craig Scott.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
A motion carries.
Madam Chair, I move to postpone, item number DF 2023-038.
Second.
Motion and a second, call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Madam Chair, I move to postpone item number DF 2023-039.
Second.
Motion and a second, call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. We're gonna ask the applicant to work with staff for when to come back, and to come back with, the
And-
kind of comprehensive
Madam Chair,
presentation.
if I could also add, you know that the site plan was postponed by design review, and one of the recommendations from the design review body was to see it come back to the site plan that could re-envision the building there. The four-story building specifically, is that something that the commission would be interested in seeing?
Yes, I think we want to see it all together. I mean, I think that's August's point. We want to see the full package together.
And that's gonna inform us. I mean, you know, I think that's gonna help you sort of strategically understand how this should work, and then hopefully make a convincing argument.
Yep.
But would that be an addition, so it would be a new site plan?
New site plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with the building, four-story building. So they would have to recreate.
Yes,
And it's a vignette sketch. I mean, they're coming with something conceptually, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to be on the record, so
Great, we need to move on. We're gonna go to the next item. Thank you all. We've made our motions. We have one administrative approval, which is, if you can go to the next slide.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
This is ordinance number 9052023, authorizing the Director of Port Control to execute a deed of easements granting CEI certain rights at Cleveland Hopkins Airport. Is there someone from the city to speak to this?
So this one is an administrative approval, which is a regular maintenance item, and so therefore we wouldn't necessarily need a presentation. Just be a sign.
Okay. And there's only one administrative approval then today?
There it is, because it's summer recess, we just had a very effectively long.
I will move approval of the administrative approval because we already voted to get out.
Second.
So.
Motion is second. Call the roll.
Anthony,
We just were approving the administrative approval, which is a consent issue at the airport, and it's a routine business.
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Councilman Slight, it was so special in your ward. I was just trying to highlight this.
I appreciate that. Yeah, but we left on Wednesday night at 10:30 p.m. That's how long our Wednesday meeting was. So.
Okay.
I
So
was-
we have a special presentation. This is public art. This is at Meyer Fairfax Market in Fairfax. This is 2190 East 105th Street. Annie Boss from Meyer, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, is staff going to make any comments before the presentation, or should Anne go ahead?
What's up, Annie? Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you taking the time to review this. This is a request for the approval of mural artwork for a 1,094 square foot mural to be located on the south facade of our upcoming Fairfax Market. Fairfax Market is scheduled to open in the fall to winter of 2023. It is located on the ground floor of a new mixed-use residential/retail building being constructed by Fairmont Properties Development Group. The building's going to be home to a Meyer-operated 40,000 square foot Fairfax Market grocery store, and on the floors above it will have 190 residential apartment units. This site is located within the historic Fairfax neighborhood and is at the southwest corner of Cedar Avenue and 105th Streets. It is adjacent to the Cleveland Clinic main campus. We're excited about having a mural on this site. We've been planning to have a mural here from the very earliest conceptions of this project here. The building area that we have allocated for the mural consists of 5 panels encompassing that almost just over 1,000 square feet. The wall surface is a gray 8x16 CMU block with a running bond pattern. This mural is going to be located on the south facade of the building, facing towards the Fairfax Market. It's going to be visible to people traveling north on 103rd Street, and the mural is intended to add light and color and energy to this facade to activate the adjacent parking garage and the building as a whole. In terms of how we came to the final mural artwork, we were very interested in having a local Cleveland artist be commissioned for this project. We issued an RFP to 10 local Cleveland artists to conceptualize and design this mural. We got in touch with those 10 Cleveland artists through some of our contacts here in the city and through their participation in the recent Cleveland Walls mural competition. And those were artists who we thought would vibe with what Meyer was trying to do. So of that RFP issued to 10 local artists, we got 4 responses back. We're super excited about the muralist who provided the art that we are going to move forward with. If you want to click through here in this slide presentation, I can show you this art. So this art is by muralist, local Cleveland muralist Glenn Infante. You can see that it is colorful, it is vibrant, it is fresh forward, foods forward. We're really excited about it. We think it's beautiful, and we would love approval today. Coming through here, I do have some supporting materials just to show you a little bit more about the project. So you can see our site here adjacent to the Cleveland campus. You can click on through. We've got our building on the north and the parking on the south. This is some of the context around us, lots of Cleveland clinics there. This is a rotated view, but you can see our building and the parking garage, and then that mural highlighted in blue there, facing towards the parking area. Here it is again with the landscaping in front of it. That's going to be some low plantings that complement the art but don't block it. Here's the overall building rendering, so you can see what it looks like there. Here's the signage plan, also showing that mural location in blue, so you can see what's going on from a bigger picture. And then this is the elevation. You can see in red the 5 mural panels that are going to ultimately be painted if we get approval. This is the 3D view. You can see the mural there highlighted in blue. This is looking kind of northwest, kind of from the store main entry, looking over at the mural. Here it is from the opposite side. This is the view from 103rd Street, looking northeast at those mural panels. This is what it looks like today, obviously still under construction, but it'll be those 5 panels on the left-hand side. Here's another view of that. And then to close, here is the proposed artwork once again. That's what I've got. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Commission members or staff?
No, initially I thought I didn't like the location, but then I thought about it. It actually faces the residential streets, and there's a new building going up. There's a phase 2. There's a park right down the street, but I think it's appropriately situated. I kudos to the design for that.
Madam
I
Chair.
also I love the mural. I actually love the design a lot.
Madam Chair, just a quick question. Annie, thank you so much for presenting and really appreciative of the inclusive process you all went through. Just curious, who was a part of the review process for that mural selection committee?
Yeah, so the RFPs responses came back, and I shared all of those up with the Meyer leadership, and they're the ones who ultimately made the final decision.
Thank you.
From the staff side, we support the final approval of this. The only thing I might mention is just that it skates a very thin line between signage and mural art. So we just want to be cautious about that in the future, just because it's a grocery store and it's also fruits. Could be interpreted as signage, but in this case.
Oh my God, I disagree. I totally disagree.
Okay.
I'm hungry. It's subliminal, right? Well, Madam Chair, I move to approve mural as presented.
And I second.
Motion and a second, call the roll.
Anthony.
Yes.
Fluker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Sergeant.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Oh, hold on a second. For me, I believe that, I'm just recalling that the Meyer project, I think we might have a PRI into that development. Is that true? Is this the one the Cleveland Clinic has some investment in as well?
No, this is not. That's the building south, Fairfax apartment building.
Okay, okay. All right, fine. Then I vote yes.
I know because I'm involved.
I love how you know better than I do there.
All right, that's why we support one another.
And I believe, thank you, motion carries. I believe that we are going to postpone this item, Director Wong, correct?
That's right. It was my oversight. I forgot to put it on the Downtown Floods Design Review Committee meeting yesterday, and so I'd like to postpone this until we can go to both design review and followed by planning commission. This is my mistake. But most of this is public. It's on the website, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Since it's for information only, do we really need to postpone it?
I mean, it would just be better practice just to fall in line with our traditional procedure. As I do think the design review committee would want to comment on it.
Okay.
And just to respect the typical procedure and
Oh,
their.
I didn't mean not to see it. I meant, do we actually have to make a motion or not?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't think so.
Okay.
As a director, I'm pulling it off the agenda.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay, so I think that's it. So is there a director's report as well? Oh, no, we have one, approved one new member.
Sorry.
And I believe for design review, probably August needs to probably recuse himself from this one, I would imagine.
Yes.
I do want to note, we are recommending Michelle Bandy-Zel Torres of city architecture, hence August stepping outside. One more second. To join the Northeast Region Design Review Committee. She currently serves on the Southeast Design Review Board, and I believe is going to add an additional design review committee. Michelle is an urban designer and planner with significant experience in forest studies, master plans, redevelopments. You can see her bio in your packet, as well as project experience on multiple transportation corridors, Greenfield Choice neighborhood plan, etc. So she's very well versed in Cleveland, knows a lot of the projects, and we'd like to submit her name to you all for review and approval to join the Northeast. And that's it on my end.
I motion to approve Michelle's appointment to design review.
And I second.
Motion and a second, call the roll.
Anthony.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Sergeant.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. Shall I dive into the director's report?
Yep. Do you want to get August though?
Oh, yes. We should get August. Xavier's gonna get August. Approved.
Awesome.
So as we're getting recent this came up as a topic in a prior meeting about the design review regions, and we did have it in a director's report in June, but I think we ran long that meeting, and so I'm here to just revisit the new design review regions. Go to the next slide. We'll jump back when I'm finished. We used to have 6 regions, and now we're actually going to keep 6 regions, but divide the neighborhoods. So we're going to really consider downtown Flats as its own design review region, should for planning. And then we've divided the neighborhood planning section into these 5 sections. Far west and near west will stay the same. Northeast will also stay the same, but Euclid Corridor and the southeast side, which used to be 3 regions, will now become 2. So.
So Euclid Corridor goes Buckeye.
Yeah, Euclid Corridor Buckeye.
Interesting.
Yeah, it includes Mount Pleasant as well. And then central southeast is the other region. We made these changes for several reasons. One is that the manager of the planning section would also oversee a region. So Adam Davenport, as manager, oversees Far West as well as all of the neighborhood planners, and we felt that that was too burdensome from a managerial perspective, because we want that manager to be free to train the staff, to be involved in the major projects, to help provide legislative and policy support as well as neighborhood planning, and like really encourage that. So
Which is why he's being demoted back down to Far West, right?
well, we're hiring for new
You're.
so I'm sorry, you'll be losing Adam as your planner. And so he'll, stay the manager and will replace his Far West planner and coming in. One of the other reasons, so again, we're going from 6 planning staff to 5 with the manager. That's the new structure. And we have provided the design review committees. So projects in Lee Harbor, Leesville, Union Miles design review districts will go to the newly renamed Central Southeast Region Design Committee. And then projects in Mount Pleasant, Buckeye Shaker, and Buckeye Woodhill will now go to the Quarter Buckeye. And so we took that Southeast committee and we said, all right, divide up. And they joined those committees. That makes sense.
Xavier, could you go back to the map? My only is the downtown Flats kind of is the inner belt, the divider between the downtown and the Euclid Corridor Buckeye?
It's by the SPA.
Okay, I guess my only question with this is kind of that area that the cursor's jumping around, especially based off of a couple weeks ago with the master plan. Like, should that area like of St. Clair Superior be tied in more with the Northeast? Or like should it be kind of like it's almost, it feels like it's straddling the downtown Northeast divide. So it's should it be kind of tied into one of those rather than like the core of Mount Pleasant, and are we kind of unintentionally bifurcating that like St. Clair Superior, Goodrich, Kirtland town into different design review districts? Like just a comment of and obviously you can do anything through policy. So that kind of just jumped out to me of what's best for that area, but I defer to your expertise. So
it's a good thought. I'm curious if others have thoughts. I also do want to mention that these are the planning areas, not the totality of each of those colors is not design review districts. Okay. You can see it's very faint. There's some of those darker golden colors.
Yeah, got it.
Those are actually the design review districts. Projects outside of those darker golden colors just go straight to building permit review, right? So, so planning regions cover design review districts as well as historic districts. But the planners themselves are really supposed to be planning for that whole region, not just doing design review. So I did want to clarify that thing. But to your point, Councilman, I think we can talk about it further. You're talking really about that northern section of Euclid Corridor Buckeye, and whether it should really go northeast.
It does seem like a kind of awkward split.
I actually totally agree about the St. Clair Superior part too. So I would consider either adding it to Northeast or adding all of St. Clair Superior to Euclid Corridor, one or the other.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Good point.
Any other thoughts before we continue forward? So some planning progress. Big news is that on Wednesday, City Council approved legislation to establish the TOD and Transportation Demand Management Program, which we saw a few weeks ago. So kudos to Matt Moss for really leading that project and really working with stakeholders and council members. This is a huge an exciting policy change that I think will really bring Cleveland into this new phase of its urban design and urban form. So it's really kind of a big deal. I think want to give kudos to Matt for his work there and all others who are involved. Collaborative team, including Harvard Community Services Center, Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, LISP, and the City Planning and Community Development Departments kicked off the Lead Harvard Corridor Plan. We had identified collectively the APD Urban Planning and Management firm from Atlanta. Actually, Peter is also involved in that from Cleveland Neighborhood Progress. They're a great firm. A lot of their planning work has been in communities similar to Lead Harvard, specifically legacy Black communities. That bridge sort of that middle neighborhood, urban / suburban footprint. So we're really excited to have them on board. They're a Black-owned firm from Atlanta. So,
Awesome.
Yeah. Last slide. Some staffing updates. Just so you get a glimpse into some of the activities that we've done over the past week. The neighborhood planning bike rides are kicking off. This was done pre-pandemic, where each of the neighborhood planners would plan a bike route and really lead the whole neighborhood planning team, across to different key sites of interest, projects they've worked on. So the first one was Kim Scott in the Huff and University Circle neighborhoods. She talked about how she worked with the Fraser family on the urban vineyard, and we traveled all along Huff Avenue and went through down to Chester on bike. So it was really great, and we'll keep sharing photos as we keep doing those. Oh, do you want to come?
I was actually gonna ask if we come, does there become a quorum thing if like too many of us were to attend?
So I think that we'll have to clarify that. I mean, we can always take the meeting minutes and we'd have to publicize that.
Michael on the bike.
Yeah, well, Mike would have to be integral to the group because if he veers too far, he'll miss it.
I think it's because we're not talking about any agenda items, so we're not taking actions, nor should we talk about any future projects. We are safe, right? But we will make sure to check.
No, I honestly, I think that's great because
Yeah.
when I worked for the city, I kind of was in all corners of the city. But I've realized in kind of in my role on council, a lot of people if I seldom go to Collinwood, so like I might not have a deep perspective of Collinwood. I can imagine some of my colleagues on the commission might not know the ins and outs of different neighborhoods. I think that like the Lorraine Station area on the west side is like really underappreciated for all Scott. So it'd be cool for us to get out and kind of be able to be more entrenched to see what's going on. So yeah.
We'll figure it out. Figure out how to appropriately do it according to our state.
Cross-pollination.
It is. It's really good.
I just got a visual of Michael with one of those like logos.
Oh yeah.
And you can record that way. Go from there. You go. Just got that visual. Right.
Okay, we'll invite you to the next one. August could probably give you the and maybe Lisa could give you the.
Yeah.
We could do another one for you in that. And then finally, staff retreat. We had a staff team building event on August 11th, 2023. We went to Sandusky for the day, so we did a staff exchange with Sandusky City Hall, learned about their lakefront process and their downtown development with Eric Wobser and Colin Gilson and others. And then we did a little team bonding session where we talked a lot about our purpose and what led us into planning to our roles today and gearing up for the citywide plan together. So
I'm so happy you guys decided to. I talked to Adam about it the day before we got together, but Adam Davenport, to get out of the four walls of City Hall. I mean, and it's good to go to other cities, right? I think it's healthy. You get to see things from a different perspective, and you don't feel like it's another, let's sit down and sort of hold hands and sing Kumbaya at
Right.
City Hall,
Right.
right? So.
That's right. So I appreciate that, and we did hear some feedback that it was just really helpful to be out. It was very informative. One last thing I'll put out there based on today's discussion, one thing the Landmarks Commission does do is if there are key demolitions, they do invite the members out to view the buildings, and we're happy to help coordinate them on the big ones. Of course, we would have to be mindful of the quorum issue, so we would watch that carefully. The other option is we can send the design review committee members on that journey and assign it to them as well, so that they can provide a report out. That's an opportunity to take a look at some of these big items. Sometimes it's hard to just look at some photos. I sense the openness, so we'll send those events. Okay, that's it.
Right. Awesome. Done.
Thank you.
Sorry, I can't reach that.
Meeting adjourned officially.